Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over our first team projection of this offseason, and that's going to be over the team that finished out as the runner-up in last season's college football playoff. All around was an outstanding season for the Buckeyes. They won the Big Ten, finally beat Clemson in the college football playoff semifinal, and even though they came short to Alabama in the championship, this was still an outstanding season for the Buckeyes. And we're going to be moving on to 2021 here today. We're going to be looking at a few players that the Buckeyes will be losing heading into next season, as well as who they're going to be returning. And we'll be looking at the schedule for the first time this offseason, starting out with the previous 6 games for Ohio State. This is a team that went 7-1 last season, and obviously with only having 8 games, this was a weird year really for any team. Ohio State only played 6 games in the regular season, and obviously there was a little bit of controversy there as to whether or not the Bucs should have even been in the college football playoff. But personally for me, this team definitely deserved a spot in the college football playoff. Even though, they only played 5 games actually in the regular season, and that's if you don't include that Northwestern game in the championship. This team, they still played outstanding, and I think the win against Clemson really proved that Ohio State was really capable of being a great team. But if you look at their previous 6 games, beat Rutgers 49-27, good win. They beat Indiana 42-35, and Indiana had Michael Penix at the time there, and Indiana was certainly a great team last season. So that was a good win for Ohio State, getting the win over the Hoosiers. They beat Michigan State 52-12. That was a very convincing win there for Ohio State, especially considering Michigan State last season. They weren't a terrible team. That certainly was a very good win for Ohio State in that matchup. They also beat Northwestern 22-10, Big Ten championship game there. And really, that was not a very impressive performance out of Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. 22-10. That really was nothing in comparison to their semifinal game when they played Clemson, and they got the win there 49-28. That was a hell of a game out of Ohio State against Clemson. That honestly was probably the most impressive performance that I really saw out of any team last season when Ohio State beat Clemson 49-28. They did lose to Alabama 24-52 in the championship, but still, Buckeyes had an outstanding season. First 4 games for Ohio State, they were 4-0. Last 4 games, they were 3-1. So overall record for the Buckeyes was 7-1. Here's a roster outlook going into next season. Star quarterback Justin Fields is heading to the NFL, so he will not be with the Buckeyes next season. But quarterback situation should be interesting for Ohio State going into next year, as you got 3 quarterbacks looking to battle it out for the top position. You got 2 quarterbacks that were 4-star recruits from 2020, and then you got your 5-star recruit in the 2021 class that will be battling it out for that top position. Should be a fun offseason to see which quarterback can finally win out the position. But as for the running back core, you got Trey Sermon heading off. He was the transfer in from Oklahoma. He put up 965 yards on the season, 4 touchdowns, which those are some outstanding stats considering this team only played 8 games last year. But they do return their second running back, Master Teague. He's going to be back. He put up 560 yards, 8 touchdowns. It looked like Master Teague would have been your top running back for sure if Trey Sermon wasn't in town. But Master Teague is really going to have a heavy workload going into 2021 for sure. Watch out for him. As for the receiver core, they got their top receiver in Chris Olave back. That's going to be really huge for this team considering Chris Olave was widely expected to go to the NFL, but he will be back for next season, and he will be back for his senior year. So definitely, I give huge credit to Chris Olave. That's going to be huge for Ohio State, and that is a huge return for this team in general. They do return their second receiver, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson last season put up 790 yards, 6 touchdowns, and as for Chris Olave, he put up just over 800, it looks like, for him, 7 touchdowns as well. As for the receivers on the other sides of Olave and Wilson, they got Williams and Fleming also coming back. They did not get a whole lot of action this season, but you could easily expect them to get some passes this next season as well, for sure. They do lose 2 offensive linemen. That includes Wyatt Davis. That certainly could be a tough loss there for the Buckeyes, considering he's probably going to be an early round draft pick for sure, possibly a 1st or 2nd rounder. We'll have to see what happens with him. But if you look at how it goes with the defensive side, they do lose 2 defensive linemen, which Jonathan Cooper and then Haskell Garrett. That's going to be also another pretty tough loss there. They lose 3 linebackers. The linebacking core is going to be taking a massive hit going into 2021 as they've got 3 seniors taking off. That includes Pete Werner. That's going to be probably their toughest loss there in the linebacking core, so watch out for that. 2 in the secondary as well are taking off. That includes, looks like Sean Wade, a defensive back, who's definitely going to be an early round draft pick as well heading into next season. He will not be with this team considering he is heading to the NFL draft as a redshirt junior. As for, honestly, the defensive side, they are losing 7 overall. That's definitely going to be very difficult going into next season, and that once again includes a couple of players that certainly had big impacts on this team last season, so you got to watch out for that for sure. Ohio State is definitely losing a lot there. But if you look at, the offensive side, Justin Fields is definitely the most impactful loss, but I think they're going to be just fine. The running back, Worth Master Teague. Master Teague's probably going to easily do just fine, I think, in this Ohio State offense, but it's mainly the main factor for this Ohio State team. Like, receiving core looks great, running back core looks great. It's just a quarterback position. Will they be able to find a quarterback that can match up to the level that Justin Fields was at? That's going to be a big question mark for Ohio State next season. And honestly, if they got a good quarterback, if they've got a quarterback that's very reliable, even like 3/4 of what Justin Fields was, this team should be just fine, and I think they'll be fine with at least winning another Big Ten title. But chances of being another college football playoff contender in 2021, really for Ohio State, they just got to get past either Wisconsin or Iowa in the Big Ten West, and they should be on their way to the college football playoff. I can imagine, unless Ohio State takes 2 losses down the stretch and still makes it to the Big Ten title, I still think Ohio State is probably the favorite to win the conference next season. This team has got such great recruiting, and really, until Ohio State and this team starts to take losses, I really don't think we can really doubt on the Buckeyes for now. They've got a really good thing going in Columbus right now. So that being said, college football playoff contender chances, I'd say they're at least 50%. I would not be surprised a single bit if you told me that Ohio State would be right back on the college football playoff next season. It's just a matter of whether or not they can finally win, or if they can win 11 or 12 games. If they win 11 or 12 games and win the title in the Big Ten, there's really no doubt in my mind that they will be in the college football playoff. It's just a matter of how many losses they take there. But that being said, let's look at your schedule now, and this is subject to change, obviously, considering we are still within the COVID and everything could be still subject to change over the course of this offseason. But here's what we're looking at right now. September 2nd is going to be the start of the season for Ohio State. They play Minnesota on the road, it looks like, in the Twin Cities. And really, that could make for an interesting matchup. I know Minnesota wasn't very good this season, but watch out for them going into next year. That could be a tricky game, especially considering there's going to be a lot of adjustment for Ohio State in that first game. You get to play Oregon at home. You're supposed to play them on the road in Eugene last year. Ended up getting canceled, but you will be playing them this season in Columbus. Got Tulsa coming to town. That could be an interesting one. Akron should be an easy game. I could probably see Ohio State scoring 70 in that matchup. Got Nebraska on the road to kick off your October. Purdue, Rutgers, Michigan State to follow. And then in November, you got Indiana on the road, Maryland, Penn State, Michigan. So really, that November could be a tough month. Indiana should be once again good next season if Michael Penix is healthy. And Penn State, that's going to be a tough team, I think. They'll probably be better. And Michigan on the road, obviously, that's always... Ohio State's had a lot of success with Michigan over the past few years, and I definitely expect that to continue, but you don't want to sleep on that matchup there. That being said, let's look at your first 6 games, and here's what we're going with for your schedule preview this time around. In the green, or in the highlighted with the green, those are the games that I think Ohio State has a greater than 80% chance of winning. So Tulsa, Akron, Purdue, I think Ohio State should really have no trouble with those teams for sure. Purdue especially, like Akron, once again, Ohio State should score 70 on Akron, I think. And Tulsa, of course, who knows? Tulsa could begin again next season. They were a pretty good team last year, but they're losing quite a bit of talent, so I think Ohio State should have no problem there. But for the 20 to 80% games, I got Minnesota, Oregon, Nebraska. I could see Ohio State absolutely just blowing out Nebraska, but I'm going to keep it in that yellow range right now. I'd probably say Ohio State's got a 75% chance of beating Nebraska. Oregon could be a very interesting one there. That's probably a 50-50 game right now for me, considering Oregon's returning a ton of talent going into next season. But yeah, that will definitely be a fun one in Columbus on September 11th between Oregon and Ohio State. Watch out for that one there. As for the second half of the schedule here, you got Rutgers on the road, October 23rd. I think that should be a win. Michigan State should be a win. Then you got Indiana, Maryland, Penn State, Michigan. Those games could be a little bit iffy there. I do think there's possibly a game in there that Ohio State could take an upset. Indiana's going to be pretty good next season. Michael Penix is coming back. If he's healthy, if Michael Penix is healthy, he could easily be a top quarterback in the Big Ten next year. But that being said, record projection for next season, 10-2 to 12-0. And just to remind you guys as well, this is just a record prediction slash schedule preview. So really, we're not going to be predicting every single game for sure because we are so early on in the offseason. Like, this is being created in January right now. We're in late January. So we'll still have several months ahead of us in this offseason, and I will be going over each of these teams once again in a final prediction this summer, and that's when you'll find my final predictions. But that being said, thanks again for watching. Let me know your thoughts and comments below on Ohio State, record predictions, all that down below. Appreciate you guys all watching, though. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys all later.